Hello! Today we are here to discuss Flotilla. I don't know how you would describe it. It's a deck builder area.
A little bit of deck building, hand management, resource collection.
A little bit of everything.
A little bit of everything.
Yeah. But before we get into that, make sure you hit that subscribe button down there and the notification
Down
bell.
where?
Down there.
Down there.
Down there.
Got it.
Right below.
Yeah, right down there.
And we've got a guest speaker here with us, Franklin, and he's joining us for the games today. So, Rob, tell us about this game.
So, Flotilla came out in 2019, plays 3 to 5 people, and we played a 3-player game. Board Game Geek rating is 7.3. Retail, it's a little pricey. It's at $79.99, but you can get it at your local friendly game store, I'm sure, cheaper than that. Amazon had it on sale for $69.94. Somebody had a used copy on the Geek Market for $30. So if you're really interested, I would check that out. Designed by J.B. Howell and Michael Michielsic. Apologize if I mispronounced that. And then art by Bartek Fedziak. Published by WizKids.
So discussing the quality of the components here, first of all, the first time I got this game, when I first got the game, the center board had tears in the pieces where they left the cardboard inserts.
Oh, yeah?
Whereas they were supposed to have been popped out before
Right.
they sold it. So that resulted in, move this thing. That resulted in these, like, tearing the pictures on the icons below it.
Okay.
So, that was already bad. They did. They showed me a replacement. But even the replacement, when it came, it has bins in it. And
it's very bowed.
It's bowed very badly.
It's so that the pieces do not fit well together.
No, they don't.
The tiles are okay, but it doesn't fit well with the board.
Yeah, and the tiles, the other thing is the tiles are half the thickness of the board. So they don't play or mesh nicely together. And that really sets it down, I think, in score-wise. In addition, you got these little really crummy barrels that are, I don't even call them barrels. They're cylinders, little tiny cylinders.
I don't think they're crummy, but they're hard to handle because they're so little.
Yeah. They're very small. The boats they custom made them for every color, which was kind of cool. That was something that was unique about them. The towers are all the same, but they chose really interesting colors. But my boat looked more like a pickup truck that had a really long bed on it. But yeah, they had interesting, and they were designed to hold 4 of the barrels, which that's probably why the barrels are so small. But the boats are huge compared to the tiles. So
and it's supposed to hold all 4 boats, and it doesn't.
Yeah, and the picture in the book made it clear that like the boat sat firmly inside the tile, and it doesn't, not at all. As far as other than that's cardboard chits.
You got decent dice.
Yeah, the dice are kind of
cool. You got 4 different color dice, and so based off of the level of diving that you're doing and research that you can do.
Yeah.
So the dice are nice. Unlike Randy, I think the card quality is actually pretty nice for just a standard retail game. It's got really good thickness to it. It's got a little bit of a texture to one side of it. It's not on both, but it's got a little bit of linen on one side. And we went ahead and sleeved it anyway, but I don't know if it's necessary. It's a pretty good quality card, in my opinion.
I didn't like them.
It's a good
When you compare it to Magic or something like that, it's better.
print art style.
The player boards, they're 2-sided because that's one of the keys to this game, which we'll get into when we talk about gameplay. But they have this insert that I'm not exactly sure why they left it the way it was, I guess, so you can keep your stats with your nuclear, how much toxicity you have during the game, and still flip it over. But because it wedges in so firmly, it messed it up whenever I flipped it over to the other side anyway.
Yeah, but it is the same on both, so you don't have to take it out.
Yeah, so I don't know why they had to. I mean, I guess, because if you had your markers, you would have to remove them to flip it otherwise.
Other than maybe if they're thinking an expansion, but this is something that could change in the expansion.
Potentially, I guess.
Yeah, so.
But the player boards are all right.
Yeah, they're not
pretty
bad.
good thickness. The tokens for victory points and the tokens for money we didn't play with because I don't like cardboard money or victory points stars, which we've seen in several games lately.
So we used as chips.
Yes, and I feel like it was a better experience because of it. It does. It takes up a lot of space. This is a table hog.
Yeah, this was a 3-player. We played a 3-player game, and it took up the whole.
Yeah,
table.
we would not have been able to play this 4 or 5 player
No.
on this table. We would have to move to the
bigger
pool table.
Right.
And it is a beast kind of to set up and take down because you got all the tiles that you're going to have to get out. And you have to kind of pull out some based upon the player count, and
Right.
there's a lot of change in setting up. It does have a common board which is used for score tracking. Well, it's really for stats tracking.
For stats,
and also as a card holder.
but the interesting thing is usually folding boards are usually where we have our problems with. This board is better than the main board.
Yeah.
And so it sits nice and flat. It doesn't bow at all, and holds everything well.
Mm-hmm.
And so the main board up here much better.
Yeah.
Than the island board or the Flotilla.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, I mean, you can see there's bins and
Oh, yeah.
creases all throughout this where it warped in shipping. So overall, for quality of pieces, I'm probably about a 5.5. I don't think it's much better than Catan. The only reason I'm giving it higher is because of the custom boats and the customizations on the towers, and the dice are pretty nice.
I think I'm going to go a little bit higher. I think with the player board being fairly nice, I like the custom boats. I like the custom dice. So, but the warping of this board is a big detractor for me. Unlike Randy, I think the cardstock is pretty good, so I'm not going to negate it on that. So that's why I want to give it a 6. If this didn't bow, it'd be a solid 7.
All right, I like the game aid
Yeah.
tracker. That really helps out to keep the flow of the game, and that way you got an idea instead of just guessing it at the end of the game who won. You get a kind of a good vibe, feel about how the game is playing as we're playing it. And like you said, good quality cards, dice were excellent. We do have some warpage, so I would give it a 6.
All right, so moving on to themes. So this, it feels like Waterworld the game.
Oh, yeah, for sure. For sure. Yeah, this is totally Waterworld the game.
So as far as it's a different, I mean, you don't see a whole lot of people taking on a movie that was a total bomb at the
I
box
like
office.
that movie. I thought Waterworld was good.
Yeah.
Well, you were one of the few, like
No,
3 or 4 people that saw it.
I saw it at the theater and I bought it. I enjoyed it.
But as far as the theme, I mean, it's a fun theme, and
Yeah.
there's a real interesting dynamic to this game where you can play in the water, or you can
The
flip
entire
to
time. You don't
Yeah.
have to switch.
you can flip to the other side where you're playing what they call it, with the
Sky side and the
side,
sea
but
side.
you're really kind of I don't know if it's sky so much because you're building the scaffolding
Yeah.
and such for the land area. So it's
It's
kind of
more of a focus from diving and collecting to
above water versus
above water
below
where you're spending resources and kind of building out the community.
Yeah.
And so it's like developing the community or expanding the community.
Yeah. So it's really
It's
a
a
very
really
unique,
very, very interesting.
unique theme and experience in this. The color choices were a little strange.
I didn't think it detracts from it.
It
It's just
doesn't. It's
different.
just you don't typically see players of purple, pink, white, black, and what was the other one? It was gray, maybe?
Wasn't it orange?
Orange. It was orange. So it's some really weird colors. But Miranda's going to be happy because it has purple and pink.
Yep.
But yeah, I mean, thematically, I think this is pretty neat theme. It's actually 1954 is the year it's set in, so
Okay.
it's kind of interesting. It's in the past, Bikini Atoll, so it's based upon like the aftermath of the nuclear weapons testing. So apparently that it caused a massive catastrophe and it destroyed civilization. So now they're building this new
Building it back up.
civilization. So yeah, it's kind of an interesting theme to it. It's definitely unique. I'll give it that.
I think the mechanics, which we haven't talked about yet, but the mechanics do help the theme in this,
Mhm.
which I always give bonus points for theme
Yeah.
if the mechanics fit the game. So I think thematically, this is a really solid game.
Yeah, I'm with you. I mean, I think there's enough things I'll detract from later.
Right.
So I'll go ahead and give this an 8 on theme. I think it's solidly entrenched into the mechanics, and it's a unique theme.
I think 8's a good score for it as well.
Yeah, eight's is really good because you got the dice, you got a little bit of deck building. You got a little bit of everything going on, and it's all mixing together and it's flowing real
Yeah.
nicely.
I did like the art on the cards too.
Mhm.
I thought that was neat. That all the cards are custom for each character, and
Yeah.
I like the look.
I mean,
of
the
it.
starting deck is what everybody starts with. That's the same, but other than that, you have a lot of unique cards in the game.
Mm-hmm. And there's multiple decks where we pulled out some,
Right.
so there's
Right.
more variability to the game too. So all of us were
Yeah,
unanimous
I
on
think
eight.
it's
I
Okay.
think it's solid.
So what about the rulebook, Randy?
All right. Well, this is where it suffers badly. This was a beast to learn. The rule book is 18 pages with back and front, so it's probably about 20 pages. There's a lot of pictures, but they're really tiny in most of the cases. Not all of them, but some of them are tiny. The ones that are actually important. Very few examples in here, and the examples they have are not very illustrative. So there were a lot of issues when we came through here, and it seems like there's a lot of content that was completely left out of the book.
Right.
There's absolutely no appendix for any of the iconography. So if you have any confusion on iconography, you have to go online for it.
But we only did that the one time, right?
Yeah, we only had to do it one time, but
Yeah.
it was a very unclear, and I
It
would
was
not have
yeah.
gotten from that picture what it was. So,
I agree. That one time we had to do it. There
Yeah.
was no way to clarify otherwise. But
yeah,
it's just from listening to you read it and then actually playing it, felt like the rule book was just way more complicated than it needed to be.
yeah, it absolutely was, and there was, I mean, just the fact that it was phrased so weirdly when you were reading the sections. You read it and it was like, what does that mean? And you have to read it like 3 or 4 times before it was like, oh, okay, I guess this is what they're trying to say.
Right.
So there was a lot of bad interpretation, or hard interpretation, not bad, difficult.
You think it could be a translation issue?
I didn't see anything that struck at me as bad sentencing phrasing or wording. It was just
Because I don't know. I didn't see where it was published initially, so I don't know
Yeah.
if this came out in the United States or if it came out in another country and WizKids just translated it and brought it in to the U.S.
Now, I don't think this is a translation. I think it's just a poor design
Poorly
of a
written
rule book.
book.
Poorly written. I mean, just leaving out major parts of what should have been in the content.
Right.
It's already a 20-page book, and they were probably trying to keep it down
Yeah.
in size, but as a cost of a lot of things that were unclear as you're reading through, it became more clear as we started playing.
Right.
So, playing through it was good, but it was, I can't give it any more than a 3, I don't think. It was a horrible book.
I can agree. I can agree with that. Just listening to you read it, I think that this is one of those games that you might want to, get on, watch it played or something, and see if there's a good video tutorial out there. Because I think that would have helped us if we would have watched it first before reading the rule book.
Yeah. The other thing I'll say is it says on the book and
It's
on
a
the box,
liar.
90 to 150 minutes. This was a 3-hour game for us.
Yeah, something like that.
It was, and we didn't play it. I don't think there's any way you could have gone too much faster from what we saw.
Franklin and I was talking. He thinks that maybe a couple playthroughs you can speed it up a little
Just
bit.
a little bit. No,
See, I don't know because granted, usually teaching game is going to be longer than normal games, but I think we picked it up pretty darn quickly. And
well, 150 minutes is still 2.5 hours.
Yeah.
I think you can chew it down to 150, but you got to be advanced play.
Yeah.
And play it multiple times to get it.
And the thing is,
and that was 3-player.
3-player, right?
Right. Yeah. If we get
4 or 5.
Yeah, because
Yeah.
it scales victory point wise for indie games. So if you played 5 players, it's 500 victory points in the pool,
So
and that's really what the driver. That's the end game driver, but also that's where it was slow to develop,
Especially the beginning,
victory points.
because you were scoring off the tiles before we were.
Yeah.
But you were scoring like
One or
or
two.
2 points.
Yeah.
Where I started scoring points off of the tower building, whatever those both the sink side and the sky side. I scored quite a bit more points, I think, initially than you guys, and I got more points off that, and then you were scoring a lot off of
just building
stuff
after I built
Yeah.
the island.
But I think that once I flipped over to the sky side, it really escalated the game. It moved forward a lot quicker after that.
Yeah. So yeah, I mean, it was a rough playthrough, but I definitely don't think that time is very accurate at all.
I don't think it's accurate.
Ages 14 up, I think it probably is accurate.
And it's a pretty heavy game.
This is definitely a medium to heavy game.
Yeah.
It's not something that someone who's not experienced would want to play.
Right. Yeah, for sure.
So as far as moving on to the gameplay, so this is a really unique game system because you start out the game and you're all on the sink side.
Yep.
So in that case, you've got boats and you're going out and exploring and you're diving into the ocean to try to collect the resources. But as you expand the oceans, you're collecting toxicity because I guess the nuclear explosion polluted everything. So as you draw here from the bag, you're getting random tiles, some of which have toxicity, and it's going to poison you, and you're going to get negative victory points at the end of the game based on how much toxicity you collect. But it's the early part of the game, or not the early part, but playing the sink side is all about getting money.
Right.
So you can score lots of money there, which you can use to buy the towers, which give you victory point bonuses if you play the towers, but you have to have locations to play them on, or you got to pay a lot more money to play them. Right. Then at any point during the game, because this is it's a deck building game. If you played Concordia, it's got a lot of similarity on the playing of that, as far as you play cards, and then you have a card that recalls them to your hand,
and even copying cards, and
but
there are definitely more strategy and more strategic elements to this card version versus Concordia. Concordia is a little bit, as far as the card elements, a little bit more basic than this.
And this one doesn't have any victory points from the cards, whereas Concordia is all about getting those at the end of the game. So, I did like that mechanic a lot.
I liked it a lot.
And you're developing your deck by taking actions that are going to give you more cards using the little rondelle systems for this.
I really wish there was a way to thin out your deck, though. That would have been interesting.
I have one card that trashed itself.
I never saw any, but that was just the one card.
Yeah.
And maybe an expansion or something, that'd be kind of neat if they had that ability to where you could maybe thin out cards. That'd be cool.
Mm-hmm. Although they did give you the ability on a few of the cards to let you discard cards to get benefit, which in essence is the same effect. So I was able to burn through my deck a lot faster to play the captain and get more of my
I never
money.
saw them.
Yeah. Well, I got awesome cards.
You did.
So the the whole mechanism of going under to get the resources, you've got dice that you're going to trigger based upon where your boats are. They're going to give you different abilities based on the depth of the ocean at that point.
Right.
And it seems like it's more toxic the deeper you go down into the ocean, which is kind of odd considering if it was a nuclear explosion, you'd think the top layers would be
I don't know. I think that you get more resources with the darker dice. I got more.
I didn't see any of the full nuclear explosion icons on the higher dice up. It was just on the lower tiers.
I think there's more of the where you screw if you get the parts that negate.
Oh yeah, there's definitely more of the things that
the
dry
corruption
up
or whatever.
your resources.
So I think that's more on the lighter, and that ruined me more than anything.
Yeah,
that hurt.
Yeah, I mean, I like that mechanic.
I do too.
I like the fact that the dice gave you good stuff, but there was also bad stuff.
Well, thematically it makes sense. There's only so many. Resources are limited.
Yeah.
And so rolling the dice is what limits those resources.
Well, on the shallow side, I noticed that you run out of more resources on the lighter dice than the deeper dice, but then you did have more toxicity on the deeper dice.
So it's almost like the fallout sank to the bottom of the ocean.
The radiation in this world weighs more.
Yeah.
So it sinks.
Closer to the dirt.
But I like that because it forced you to expand your territory.
Absolutely.
Because otherwise you're going to run out of resources.
Right.
But at any point when you play the captain card, you also have the option of flipping your board and going sky side, which is more about victory point gaining, but you have less options for money, supposedly. Although I never had any problem getting money, what I ran into as a problem is there was no real good way of getting tokens or tiles, which the tiles were really prevalent and easy to get on the seaside or sink side. But when you draw them, you have that whole toxicity risk. So there's a risk-reward balance. So I kept running out of tiles to play when I was and that slowed me down big time. And I think you have to choose wisely when you're going to flip it.
If at all.
If you decide to do it at all.
So I think one of the interesting elements for me was that on the sync side, it's all about gathering resources and then either selling them or doing some special stuff. Whereas when you go Sky side, it's about buying resources.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think that's an interesting mechanic if you can have people on both sides of that element. So it really helped out Franklin when we were buying because it boosted up the value so that when he sold, he got a lot more money. And I think that's really cool because that could be like a mechanic like, I don't want to go Sky side because I'm more money heavy.
Yeah, this has a really nice market system that's very reminiscent of the Navigator, what we played. Miranda and I both really liked how that worked as far as you buy resources, it drives the price up. If you sell the resources, it drives the price down. But in this case, it's for every one you sell, it drives it down. Whereas I think Navigator was for each sale, it goes down one or up one. So this one really can be swingy as far as the prices on the resources, and you can kind of hate buy or hate sell.
You could do that
because you can change the market to screw somebody over. So I like that, but honestly, I never really felt like money was a risk in this game. I was never in a situation where I was ever hurting for money.
It's every time. Well, not every time, but a lot of times I was always $1 or $2 off from doing what I wanted to do when I wanted to do it. So I had to do another action, try and get a little bit more money, so that then I could do what I wanted to do.
Yeah, my big problem was the tiles. That's where it limited me. And you had more of it. You had tiles everywhere.
He has like the Pacific Ocean.
I had a pretty good game.
Randy had like the Indian Ocean. I'm more like the Atlantic Ocean.
I mean, I was just trying to manage everything, trying to just get a good feel of the whole game.
Yeah.
Right.
While we was playing everybody else and see what everybody else was doing. So just trying to keep up with everything that was going on the board and learning the game too. So I mean, it had a good vibe as you was going.
Yeah.
It wasn't like one-sided.
I think it overstayed its welcome, though. I think it's one of those games where it was great for as long as for the first few hours, but then it was like, okay, let's just get this over with. After the end, it was just taking so long towards the end. You know, it just felt like it was a little too long.
Almost there. I was almost where I was like, I wasn't quite there. I was like, I'm done, but it was starting to get to be too long.
Yeah.
And so yeah, I agree. It's almost there. It's almost too long of a game.
So as far as a rating on this is a tough one for me because I liked aspects of it a lot. I liked the card play. I liked the
it's some very unique aspects.
It's definitely got some unique. I like the fact that you got that choice of flexibility of when you're going to flip. I just felt like they made a poor choice in having that many victory points in the pool to determine. It seemed like 100 per player was way too many, and it felt like it should have been more like 50 per player or something. And, maybe half of the number. And I think it would have played better.
That might be too short, but it still would be interesting at least.
Yeah.
I've never been a fan of house ruling a game. It's designed away on purpose for good or ill. And so I don't like to change the rules. But it would be neat to maybe try that. Just adjust that maybe to 75 have victory points per player. So just to see if it makes a difference.
Yeah, because that was, I think, the big factor. Is it was intimidating having the stack of tiles sitting there. Where like, really, I get 3 victory points for this action?
And there's 297 left to go.
See, I'm totally opposite of Robert because I believe in modifying something the ways it goes with the game. For the people, the game, the way they style of play, and for everybody to make it enjoyable for everybody around the field. So I don't have a problem modifying something that somebody else is better at. These guys that design this, they could probably play it in 90 minutes, but an average person is going to go way the style limit, and changing the point system on that would make it fun for everybody and kill the perfect time to move on,
So I think I'm at a 7.5 is where I'm at on this. I liked it enough that I think, maybe as we play it more, we'll get into finding or discovering better ways of scoring points in the game.
Right.
But this playthrough, certainly, it felt way too long. And I probably would have given it a higher score if it had not have been so long.
So timing-wise, didn't hurt me as much, but it still was definitely a factor. That's why I wanted to go a little bit better at an 8. I think this would be a 9-point game if it just was maybe 30 minutes less.
I'm going to give it a 7 3/4, just because the rules were not 100% clear, or we had a little bit of issues. But I can see the time didn't really hurt me. That's because I was already in the back of my mind that we can cut that down. That's not a killer game. So that's why I give it 7 3/4.
All right.
I'd like to give it 8, but some rules.
Yeah, no, I agree with you fully on the rules. That was horrible.
Yeah.
This may be the lowest score I've ever given on a rule book, I think.
No, I don't know.
The
We'd
game
have
was
to go back and
awesome.
look.
I
But
do
yeah,
like the artwork. I mean, everything was.
yeah, it's a great game.
Yeah, I mean, it was definitely an enjoyable game, and I love the fact that it was a unique game.
Yeah, unlike anything I've seen in any other game. That whole sink side to sky side is so interesting.
Mm-hmm. All right, well, that's our assessment of Flotilla. Hopefully you enjoyed it, and hopefully you'll come back and visit us again. And go out and check out. We got these shirts up on our channel, our website, www.legendsofnerdvana.com/shop. If you want to get your own shirts, you get some masks, get your polo shirts, get geared up for those big conventions coming up.
Shout out in the comments for anything that you thought about our video. Say hi to Franklin if you want, and which we appreciate him joining with us on our review.
All right. Later.
Bye.